Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vibe Guide. So this week's episode, I wanted to chat about boundaries. This might be a little bit of a longer episode because I am going to give an update, just like a life update, what's been going on. So let's do that. Let's jump in. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. So what's been going on with me is I've had a little bit of a wellness journey these past few months. Um, you guys know, like when I initially came back from Europe, like my plan was to save as much as I could and like get right back to Denmark. So that's obviously not been the case. And um that's been put on hold basically. I haven't in my mind it's a no, but like I haven't like reached out to them and been like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to move forward because I don't even know if it really needs that energy. I just feel like they know that they're not gonna accept it, so I don't feel like they're really concerned. Like, it's been weeks since I've emailed them back, so, um, basically, they just started to kinda nitpick everything apart, and I've gone above and beyond, and the dean of my nursing school sent them a letter and, like, the whole 9, and so, like, I feel like it's gotten to this point where I've done everything that I can do, and I've gone back and forth, and, like, it's towing the line of, like, forcing it for me, and I just made a promise with myself, especially moving into, like, this more intuitive lifestyle, like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not going to. I'm not gonna force it. This is, like, an extremely hard, difficult process, and it's gotten to the point like, just because something's difficult, like, I don't want it to be misconstrued. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean that I'm not gonna do it. But, like, I've gone above and beyond, and I've done an ass ton of stuff, and, like, they just keep nitpicking every single thing I send. So, for me, now I'm just like, okay, now my ego is, like, taking it personally, and I'm, like, offended. And that's the truth. I'm just like, "Alright, listen, whatever, like, it is what it is. Denmark's not the move, it's not the move." So, that's kinda where I am. And I think I've like subconsciously, like intuitively known that for a few months. So I just innately went down this wellness journey and you guys know how expensive that can be. So that's what I'm doing. You guys know I went to a naturopath. So I have, or I don't like to say I have, I'm experiencing polycystic ovarian syndrome and all the lovely side effects that go with it. The number one thing that I've experienced since I moved back from Europe is skin issues. So acne, like I've never had before in my life, like cystic acne. I still have like scarring all over my chest from it. Um, it just was not pretty when I got back. I don't know if it was like from the stressful situation that happened with my family that happened literally the day after I got back from Europe, or like the change of environmental toxins and things in the air and the water. Like, I don't know. I'm sure it's a mixture of both. But basically, my skin has just been like freaking out, like redness, irritation, dry patches, which I just never usually have that kind of stuff. Acne, yes, but like the other extracurriculars, no. So, I went and I did like the normal route, went to the dermatologist, like went to see a nurse practitioner that was not helpful at all. She put me on an antibiotic, which did not help at all. It actually turned my fingertips yellow. So I don't know if she was trying to kill my liver or what she was trying to do. So I went and saw an actual dermatologist. That was a nurse practitioner. I went and saw an actual dermatologist and she put me back on aldactone, which I'd asked the nurse practitioner to do, but that's a whole nother story. Like she didn't listen to me at all. We had words, we had an exchange in the office. Kindly, I was like very kind, which is new for me. This is a new thing. But I was really not into her energy and like how she was rushing me and not listening to me. And I just told her that exactly. Um, so the dermatologist did put me back on aldactone, started me on a topical antibiotic, clindamycin for my skin, and also a retinol. So I've stopped using the retinol. I've stopped using the topical antibiotic, and have lowered my dose of aldactone. So that's kind of where I'm at. Then I went to a naturopath and she started me on a bunch of supplements. And I'm so thankful that I made the decision not to share the supplements on the PCOS episode because I know people were asking me, but I'm really glad that I didn't because I actually have toxicity from one of these supplements. I think I know, we both think we know which one it is, but I have to go get lab results done. Um, but it could explain why my fingertips went yellow with the doxycycline, and they also went yellow a few days ago again. So something more systemic is going on. So I'm getting my liver tested, and um, so I'm grateful that I went to the naturopath because I don't think if I would have had that side effect happen again, I think people would have brushed it off because that's exactly what happened when I called the nurse practitioner and told her that my fingertips were yellow from the doxycycline. She basically was like, "I don't care, just like stop taking it." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Um, but the naturopath was like very concerned. She was like, "What have you been eating?" You know, just asking me a million questions about it. And then immediately she was like, "You need to get lab work done. Do not take any, don't even take Tylenol, don't take ibuprofen." Like, because I've also been having headaches and things like that and muscle pain. So it's definitely a toxicity. And so it's been a little scary for me. And she was like, "Do not consume alcohol," which I wish I would have known that because I did consume alcohol. So, anyways, so the naturopath comes with, which I kind of now intuitively think I should have gone to a functional medicine physician instead of a naturopath, because the supplement journey, I've always been a little leery of supplements. Like, I do appreciate them, but I just think that like the doses you have to take of certain things to have them work can be a little much, like, for the body. So I think that that's what's happening. My body is extremely sensitive. Like, I think this goes along with me being intuitive, like an indigo child. Like, if my body is off by, like, if one thing is off, like, it just affects everything in my body. Like, I haven't had a menstrual cycle this month, like, this is TMI. I've been constipated. I have this toxicity happening, and that's just from, like, one supplement. So, my body is very sensitive, like, extremely sensitive. So, while it's, like, a great thing, I feel like, because my body's, like, very aware of, like, what's going on, and, like, very quickly I realized something was going on with that supplement, but it's just annoying because 'cause I'm just like, she was like, "I haven't seen this before." She was like, "But this I do, like, I've read about this, like, I think this is what's happening." So, of course, it's something that's not, like, you know, s standard whatever, standard side effect or whatever, so I'm like, "Ugh." Anyways, it is what it is. I am who I am. Um, so dealing with that. Also, I do think there's a lot to be said for the naturopath and the fact that they take so much time and like try and think of things more foundational than just like putting a band-aid on it, like a lot of like the, normal doctors would do. They just kind of throw medication at you. A naturopath kind of does that in like the way of supplements. So I don't really know that that's my thing either, but I do appreciate the time and the care and um the attention that they give. Like, I think that that's really, I'll continue to go to her, and like I'll continue to just like give this stuff a shot for like 3 months or so and just like see if my body comes back around and things like that. So we'll see. To be determined on the naturopath, to be honest with you guys. I don't know. I think I'm going to move more towards the functional medicine doctor and head that route, but I still have all my lab work to get. Like, it's the very beginning of this journey. So I feel like once the lab work comes back, she'll be able to really like, get more specific with the supplements and things like that. So we'll see. We'll see. What else have I been doing? So externally, I have a shower head filter for my skin and my hair. And I cannot tell you guys, like, 10 out of 10, I would recommend. It's the Jolie shower head filter. You can type in your zip code and they send you the filter, like, kind of. I don't know how many types of filters they have, like, I don't know how specific they get, but I know mine's targeted towards chlorine. There's a lot of other contaminants in my water, but chlorine is like, I can't have a reverse osmosis shower head filter because reverse osmosis is like 3 different types of filtration in one. So it's just really not possible unless you get like one in your entire home. So I'm going with this one. It basically gets all the chlorine out and all the byproducts of chlorine, which is good enough for me in my shower. I've noticed a big difference in my skin. It's not as dry, like, truly, hand to God, it's not as dry. Um, and my hair. Like, before, I would wash my hair and it would be oily by the end of the day. So now I'm not experiencing that. It's like very normal. Within like 2 to 3 days, like, I wash my hair. I'm even putting oil in my hair. Like, I oil my hair with rosemary hair oil and jojoba oil. And that, like, previously, it would kinda be annoying because, like, it would kinda stay in my hair and, like, make my hair oily, but, like, with this new shower head, I seriously, I'm not having that problem at all. So I don't know, I don't know, but I like the company, they give a 60-day money back guarantee, which I feel like you gotta be really confident in your product to, like, give that. So and I love Rob Dyrdek. He's a co-partner, and he's a skateboarder turned entrepreneur. He's the best dude ever. He's very much into all the energetics of things and like the woo-woo stuff and meditation, and he has a podcast of his own, and just a really cool guy, and I just feel like he's really, like, grown and evolved, and, like, I don't know, I just appreciate that about people, and I appreciate, like, what he puts out into the world, and so I don't think he would put his name on a product that, like, truly wasn't helpful, because like, he wouldn't want that, like, bad energy back on him. So, yeah, what else? Oh, an AquaTrue reverse osmosis water filter for, like, my drinking water. So I have an over-the-counter one, so it's basically like a really large Brita system, and I'm excited, that should come in this week. Reverse osmosis, I looked up exactly what's in my water for my subdivision, and reverse osmosis is the way to go because it gets out all the things. All the things. So that's what I'm going with. I'm excited to get that and try that. What else, like, externally? I'm trying to think. I'm getting a facial at Biologique Recherche. It's a French company. I had always wanted to get one done in Paris, like, when I was there, but I just never did. It's super expensive, and I don't know, it just didn't really every time I was in Paris, I was, like, busy and doing stuff. Um, so yeah, so I'm having that done. They have, people who are trained in it in Richmond. So and I love how they assess your skin. They use technology and they actually assess your skin. And you know what else? I did go get a facial when I was in France, and this was just like a standard facial, and they, like, put my face in a scanner, and they did the same thing. Like, they assess what your skin needs before they put anything on your skin. Which I feel like is standard there. Like, they don't just, like, look at your skin and then, like, start slapping stuff on. Like, they do, like, the, like, technological scan of your skin, and, like, it, like, calculates the hydration level, like, all the stuff. So I'm like, the French don't play about their skin. They really don't. So that's what I'm going to do. And their facials are expensive, their products are expensive, but we shall see, and I will let you guys know the review. You know I will. I've stopped using the Rhode face wash. So you guys know I like the Rhode moisturizing products. I really do like their products. The face wash has a pineapple enzyme, and I think that was irritating my skin. So I've stopped using that, and I'm just using oh, what's the freaking cleanser? Not Cetaphil, not starts with a V. Anyways, it's like a very plain Jane cleanser and their moisturizer. And I've been using that and my skin likes that too. So, Clear or something like that. I think it's called Clear, something like that. I don't know. It's not like the most eco-friendly whatever. It's got all the shit in it, but I don't care. It's like not irritating my skin at this point, so I'm going with it. What else? What else, you guys, on the wellness journey? What else? It's been very expensive, so I probably won't be taking a cute little summer trip or a vacation anytime soon. Um, but I am working on manifestation, you guys. I think this is gonna be another episode because I'm manifesting one specific thing, and when it comes in, I'm gonna, like, freak out because 'cause I'm telling you it's gonna come, and if I get that manifestation, it's over for you hoes. I'm manifesting everything in my life. So I say I might not be taking a summer vacation, but to be determined because I might be manifesting something instead. So anyways, okay, let's jump into boundaries, you guys. Let's jump into the boundaries. Oh no, I wanted to tell the story. So you guys know I love signs. I love asking my spirit guides for signs. I'm actually reading this book from Sonia Choquette or Choquette. I don't know how to say her name. Um, she's an intuitive guide. She's all the things. She has like loads of books out that I read, and I love her books. They're super informative. This one is about connecting with your spirit guides, and it is so fun. It's just a fun book. It's almost like a workbook. And like one of the very first things is like you have to name your spirit. And you guys, I named mine Sparkle Spirit. So much. Like, and it's just so funny because you do like this intuitive process to like have the name come to you. And it immediately came to me. And like I was just like smiling ear to ear. Like I was like, that is it. Like, that's my spirit, a sparkle spirit. And it's so funny because like anytime I think of my aura or like my spirit, or anytime I meditate and anytime, if you do meditation, a lot of times they want you to like cover yourself in white light. Mine is always, always, always sparkly. Since the jump, like since I started this spiritual journey and like started meditating, and now my nose is itching again, you guys. Like as soon as I do these podcasts and start talking about things, I guess maybe my spirit guides like they make my nose itch. I don't know. I Googled it. Apparently that's a thing. You guys are gonna be like, Caroline, it's like cuckoo cuckoo, and that's fine. But anyways, so my aura is like always really sparkly, like in my meditations and things like that. It's not just like a ball of light. It's like always shiny, sparkly, glittery, and I love it. And so, yeah, that's my spirit, you guys. Sparkle spirit. Hello. So, moving into signs, I asked my spirit guides for a sign about Denmark. I was like, if I meant to just like shut the door on it, like send me a turtle. You know what I mean? Just send me a turtle. I love turtles. Just send me a good old turtle. So I'm walking around a few days ago and walking around my neighborhood, walking along. I look to my left, big ass turtle in somebody's yard. I was like, are you serious? Like, how funny is that? I don't know what kind of turtle it was. I don't know if it was a snapping turtle or just like, I don't know what it was. But anyway, so I kind of stopped and like looked at it and I was like, oh my God. Like I just kind of took it in. I was like, it's so cool when like your signs come through. And it's your sign, you guys, because it's not only do you see it, but it just like sends chills over my body. Like it really does. Like even when I ask for the simple ones, like I've asked for like a purple heart before in the past or like a yellow heart. People are always like, "Oh, well, you'll see that anywhere. Like, how do you know?" or whatever. But it's like, like as soon as you see that sign that you asked for, it's like it comes over you, washes over you. And sometimes it'll take days. And like, I'll forget that I even asked for that. And then I'll see it. And then I'll be like, boom, it'll just like smack me in the face. I'm like, oh my God, that's my sign. Oh my God. Like, that's so cool. So, like, you'll know, you guys, like, it'll wash over you completely when you see your sign. Like, even if you're not sure, you just have to trust and like know that that is your sign, especially if you feel it. So I see this turtle and like I immediately stop dead in my tracks and I'm like, oh my God, that's the turtle. I'm like, it's fucking cool, man. That's so cool. It's my turtle. So then the woman who owns the house, she's like kind of walking in her front yard and I'm like, she's kind of looking at me. I'm kind of looking at her and she's like, what the fuck is this girl doing? So then she has chickens in her yard. There happened to be a rabbit in the yard at the same time. There was a turtle and there was a cat all at the same time. So I told her, I said, well, you just have like all the animals in your yard today. And she couldn't hear me. So she walked a little closer and I repeated myself and she couldn't hear me. So then I walked like into her yard and like then we started chatting and talking and she didn't even see the turtle. And I was like, yeah, I was like, the turtle right there. And she was like, what? And then she was like, oh my God, the turtle. She was like, no way, that might be the one that laid the eggs in my backyard. And I was like, it laid eggs in your yard? Like, I don't know why I just didn't think turtles would do that. Like, I don't know. She was like, yeah, 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 I'll come, I'll show you. So we walk around the back of her house and she showed me where the turtle like dug the hole. It dug one hole and apparently laid some. And then it didn't like that hole. So then it dug another hole and laid its eggs in that hole. So she said it takes about 30 days. And then they'll see all these little like turtles pop out of she said it's happened before, like 3 years ago. And she said she got scared because it was like right on the 30-day mark and none of the little baby turtles were coming out. So she was like, well, maybe it didn't lay its eggs in there. Like maybe they died. Like, I don't know. So she said she got a shovel and was like started like very gently to like dig and see if they were there. And all of a sudden, like 20 little baby turtles came out of this hole and like jumped into the river. She lives right on the water. Jumped into the river. I was like, that is the coolest story. So I just had like this lovely, sweet little experience with this lady. And we just chatted for like 20 minutes and she was so excited to like show me and tell me the story. And so I don't know. I just thought that was really sweet. I was like, who knew? Just from asking your spirit guides, a little turtle, I got my sign and I got this really sweet experience with this lady and like got to know her a little bit better. So anyways, I just want to share that because you guys remember to ask for signs, okay? Because your spirit guides are always around. They're always with you. They want to connect with you. They want to help you. That's what they're here for. Like that's their job. That's like one of their main jobs is to like protect you and to guide you and to help you through this life. Like that's their sole job. So like put them to work. You know what I mean? Like they want to work, they want to help. Sparkle spirit. Woo! Oh my God. I love it so much, you guys. Okay. Let's jump into like a more serious thing. Ugh, boundaries. Lord, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. So I've come a long way with boundaries, you guys. I have to say, like, I've always had a pretty, I don't know that I even knew I had boundaries. Like, I just feel like my personality lent itself to like, I never really got like walked all over. I was never truly a people pleaser. Like, I didn't really have much of that. Like, certain aspects of it, I think we all have, but I don't know. I think like the lesson for me was like the kindness and compassion and the boundaries. Like I needed to learn that and I needed to learn myself more in order to learn my own boundaries. Like I feel like it was always reactionary boundaries. Like someone would do something to me and then I would have a reaction to somebody. And like that was kind of my way of like implementing a boundary. And we know that that's not the best way to be, right? It's not good. It creates a lot more tension and conflict in your life. So I think the lesson for me over the years, and especially like these past 3 years and what I've been through and like what I've learned is that the deeper that I got to know myself, the stronger my boundaries became. And yes, it caused relationship dynamics to shift and change. And I no longer speak to certain family members and that's just like that comes along with the territory sometimes. Like it just is what it is. Like I'm still learning, I'm still growing. It's not it's not perfect. Like it's not a pretty picture. Like trying to figure out what your boundaries are and like it's trial and error. It's like having forgiveness for yourself like if you didn't approach something in the best way, like it's just about learning yourself. Like boundaries are for you. They're not for anyone else. They're for you. So if you don't know yourself, you're going to have a really hard time with boundaries. Right? So I just thought that this topic would be helpful because I do find that since I've really come into my own like in a lot of different aspects, but emotionally, I think I've really healed myself a lot, and I think that I understand myself on a very different level than I ever have before in my life. I've gotten so much clarity and so much peace and so much contentment about who I am, as well as what I expect from other people in my circle, right? And then how I navigate that, how I navigate conflict, how I approach resolution with people. Like I've gotten so clear on that, that it really doesn't take a whole lot for me to decide whether or not someone's allowed in my space, whether or not I'm gonna give somebody, a more porous boundary with me, whether or not I'm gonna be more flexible with them, whether or not I'm gonna have to be a strict wall, like a brick wall with them, like it's been a learning curve. And so it's not linear. It's really not. It's just like everything else. It's not linear. There's ups and downs. There's trial and error. There's mistakes that will be made. Your boundaries will change and evolve over time. Like they won't always be stagnant. They won't always be the same. So I thought this would be helpful. I found an article from Psychology Today that talked about the 12 signs that you lack boundaries. And I want to start there because I feel like there's so much talk about boundaries and like implementing them, but like for me personally, like, I didn't even realize I didn't understand that, like, that was what I didn't have in life, especially when it came to relationships. Career, never had a problem, like, external relationships, like, as far as, like, what I just said, like, career and, like, at school and things that are, like, more external, I had no problem with boundaries. Like, yes, could I have operated with more kindness and compassion in certain situations? Absolutely, and it's something that I'm learning, and I have definitely put it into practice in this dialysis job that I have because I can tell you right now, I've been literally tested so much being in a manager role and, like, having people come at me with, like, disrespect and, you know, the tone and the rolling of the eyes and like all these things and I've really had to teach people how they're going to treat me and do it in a kind and compassionate way because if I don't do it in a kind and compassionate way it's going to create more problems, right? So it's like about team building, it's about being a good leader. It's about like I understand, I empathize with you, I get it, like healthcare sucks, like your job, you don't want to be here like all the time, I get it, but, like, you're not gonna treat me that way, and, like, let's make that really clear because number 1, I don't treat you all that way, okay? So, like, let's be clear. This is how we're gonna move forward. And I have to say, like, since I've done that, it's not like there's way less more of that energy. And specifically just because some certain people have left, which has, I'm not even gonna say anything, but certain people have chosen to take different jobs, which has been helpful. But also there's ownership and accountability, and there's like, they give apologies. Like if there is a situation where they have been disrespectful to me and I've told them like, don't speak to me that way. If you want to move forward, if you want me to listen to you, that's not the way to get through to me. There is accountability. There is, there's conflict resolution where that wasn't happening prior. So like there is something to be said about like you have to teach people how to teach you. And especially for me, like in this leadership role, like we do at the end of the day, we all have to work as a team. So like if I'm creating more friction in the way that I'm trying to problem solve and the way that I'm trying to like put my boundaries up and make sure like my energy stays intact, it's got to be in kindness and compassion, because if not, like we're not going to have a team, and they're going to resent me and they're going to hate me, and like they're going to be like, fuck you, I'm not listening to anything, because I would be the same way. I would be the same way, and I have been before in the past to managers who didn't respect me and didn't respect my time. So yes. Now after that little tangent, let's talk about the 12 signs that you lack boundaries. So number one, your relationships tend to be difficult or dramatic. This is like very true, and I've experienced this firsthand. I do feel like I was at like a certain point in my life where I was like, yo, do I have a sign on my forehead that says if you're toxic and like super unhealthy for me, you should be in my life? Like that's what I felt like. I remember like in my mid 20s, like early 20s, I was like, what is going on? Like I don't like this. And I was like even in therapy, and I was like it was still happening. I was still getting like these really toxic relationships and like super unhealthy, difficult and dramatic relationships. Like even with friendships, like it was just always like a fight would have been like just something that there was, like, no real resolution, or just, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just was not, you could tell all your relationships were difficult and unhealthy, but you're like, "But why? Like, what's going on?" Right? So, it says, "The less you set healthy boundaries, the more you give others a signal that you don't know how to take care of yourself. This leaves you open to attracting people who will want to control you." And you know what's so funny is when I read that, I remembered this line that I had my aura read in 2017. And this would have been when I was, well, how old would I would have been 27, 26, 27. So she wrote that for me specifically in my aura reading, that like I really have to respect myself more, because that's the energy that I'm putting out and people are picking up on it. And that's why I'm attracting these men that don't respect me, because I don't respect myself. And, like, now, years later, I get it. But, like, even when I read it then, I was like, "That's not true." Like, I do respect myself. Like, I just wasn't getting it. It wasn't clicking. And I also think, like, this is part of divine timing as well. Like, there's a reason why I wasn't getting the lessons at that point in life. Like, eventually, I did get it, and eventually, it's crystal clear to me. But it wasn't until I was, like, 30. You know what I mean? So sometimes, and I don't think anything was gonna get through to me, like, at that point. Like, I really was working on that self-awareness piece for a lot of those years, for, like, my mid-20s and up. Like, I was really trying to figure out that self-awareness piece. So, a lot of it went over my head, but it's very true. Like, if you don't respect yourself and you're giving out that signal, people are gonna eat it up. And like I said, you have to teach people how to treat you, sorry. It also says, or you might lack such a sense of power from never standing up for yourself that you resort to unconscious manipulation yourself. This means you are constantly in codependent relationships and friendships that lack equal exchange of give and take. I had all of that. I remember when I went to the therapist and he said I was codependent, and I was like, "Excuse me?" Also, don't ever go to therapy in the middle of the day, you guys, because I did that. I was working at my dad's company, and I did that. I went to therapy for the very first time on my lunch break, and then I came back to work, and I was just like staring into space. I was like, and I was so upset. I was so emotional. Oh God, that day was awful. I'm not even gonna go into like the rest of that day, but that day was awful. So, but it was very true. Like I definitely was codependent in relationships, and the friendships that lack an equal exchange of give and take. Yes, I had that as well. And that's been a hard one for me to learn because I am like a giver by nature, and mm, I do feel like I go out of my way more for my friends, and like even if like I didn't have boundaries, like I would answer the phone even if I didn't want to. Even if I like rolled my eyes before I picked up the phone because someone called me, they wanted to vent. I would just do it because I'm like, you know what? Like on the other side of that, like if the roles were reversed, like I would want my friend to pick up the phone. But what I found was that that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. People didn't give me that same energy, and like I resented people for that. And instead of looking in the mirror and being like, Caroline, you're giving way too much. You're giving way too much. Like, respect your boundaries. If you don't feel like answering the phone, then you don't answer the phone. And if they got a problem with it, maybe they shouldn't be your friend because they're not respecting your boundaries. You know what I mean? And like I really did bump into that because and that did not click with me with friendships until I was about 30, 31. And I don't speak to certain friendships because of that. Because I felt like I gave so fucking much to certain friendships. And when I needed like an ounce in return, it was it was what? It was like flipped around, turned on me, starts fights about it. Like it was I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but like I feel like I have been above and beyond and been such a good friend, and it's my own fault because I lack boundaries in friendships. So, and it started to creep up too, like that thing about the equal exchange, the give and take. Like for some friends, it was easier for me to like see it black and white, and for other friendships, it's kind of a little bit more subtle, and you have to pay a little bit more attention. And when I say more attention, I mean more attention to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, are you giving too much away? Right? Like, and your true friendships will recognize that and they'll respect you for like not, for taking time and being like, sorry, I just like needed a minute. Like, I didn't feel like answering the phone. Like, sorry, I just didn't feel like chatting. Like, your real friends are going to be like, girl, it's all good. Like, I'm the same way. No worries. Like, other people are that take that kind of shit personally. Like, that's not friendship to me. Um, And also just the friendships that I've had that have just kind of glided away, like, because I stopped giving into them, like, I stopped putting any effort in, and the friendship just went away. So it's like, well, there's your sign. You know what I mean? Like, I was giving way too much away because as soon as I stopped, crickets. You don't hear from that person. And that is also okay. Like, I'm totally, totally fine with that in my life. Like, it's a bummer, you know what I mean? Like, friendships I hold near and dear, and, like, I love my friends, and, like, they're some of my they're like family to me, to be honest. So it's not like it's not hard, but at the same time, like, I respect myself way too much. I'm not gonna do the back and forth. I'm really not. And especially if I bring something up to a friend and, you can tell when people want a conflict resolution and, like, other people don't. And, like, for me, like, if you come to a friend with, like, some kinda conflict or something that's bothering you and, like, they wanna, like, point the finger at you and they don't wanna take any accountability and they wanna go around and around and around, I would highly consider reconsidering that friendship because and that's any relationship because it takes 2. Like and that's, like, beyond boundaries, but it does. Like, it just that's a big turn off for me, and that takes no effort for me to be like, "I'm good. Like, it's been nice knowing you. I'm good." Until you wanna learn accountability, like, I'm good. I'm good. Okay, let's move on. Number 2, you find decision making a real challenge. This makes complete sense. Like, if you have no boundaries, you don't know yourself, you're gonna give all your power away to other people, and you're gonna rely on other people to make literally every decision for you. "What do you want to eat for breakfast, babe?" I don't know. What do you want?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, down to the smallest things. Like, you are really gonna give away so much of your power. Number 3, you really, really hate to let other people down. Like, enter people pleasers into the chat, okay? I just cannot relate to this. Like, I just do not care about quote unquote letting people down. I think in a familial sense I have, and like that is like a big piece of like what happened with family relationships, about a year ago. But as far as like other like external relationships, like friendships or whatever, like I don't care. I really don't care. Like If I'm not gonna if I don't wanna do something, I'm just not gonna do it. That's just, like, in every part of, like, my genetic makeup. That does not mean that I don't go above and beyond and that I don't sometimes go out of my way for people and, like, you know what I mean? But, like, if I'm truly at, like, a 0 and I have no energy to do something and you need me to do X, Y, and Z, I'm probably not gonna do it, babe. Probably not gonna do it. You know what I mean? I'm just not. And that's like that people pleaser. Like I don't care. Like you can be mad. That's fine. But like a people pleaser would be like so fearful of like someone being mad at them or upset with them. It would be like crippling for them. Like they would have to do whatever. Even if they had 0 in the tank, they would still get in their car, go do whatever for you. Like I don't operate that way. Like I really don't. So I don't know. Like if you don't know yourself, if you don't have personal limits and you don't have a good sense of, like, I hate to say it, but like, if you don't have a good sense of self, you tend to err more on the side of being a people pleaser. Because if you're the opposite and like you do know yourself very well and you know what's going to drain you and what energetically you want in your life and what you don't want in your life, and like you're going to be okay with saying no. And I feel like people pleasers have a really hard time saying no to things. So, people pleasing is like a whole situation in itself. And I really do feel like if you deal with people pleasing behavior, therapy is really big. Like cognitive behavioral therapy can be really helpful. Um, I don't know. It's really hard for me to relate to people pleasers. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, I mean, the only advice I would give is like therapy, and I would say getting to know yourself really well, like doing some shadow work, like doing like the deep work so that you understand, like, and give yourself the okay that it's okay to have boundaries and that it's okay to say no to people and that it's okay to like have friction with people because that's just what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, boundaries aren't easy. Like, boundaries create tension. Like, boundaries can be not pleasant and they can change relationships dynamics for the rest of your life. But like you have to be comfortable with yourself and knowing that like I'm doing it for me. Like this boundary isn't meant to hurt you. It's not meant to like, you know, it's for me. The boundary is for me. So like if the people in your life can't respect that, like you see what I'm saying? Like the people pleasing, it's gonna hit that friction and it's gonna be uncomfortable. But like I don't know, you guys. Like the people pleasing's tough. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot. I really don't. I just it's hard for me to relate. I would say go see a therapist and truly try and iron that out because people pleasing behavior is going to be really hard to set boundaries if you have people pleasing behavior. Number 4, 2 words, guilt and anxiety. If you ever dare say no, you suffer from ongoing guilt and fear. Many people with boundary issues feel guilty for the smallest things too, like taking the last piece of cake or asking someone to move along the bench so you two can sit. That's like people pleasing too. I think that that relates to the same thing. Um, I don't know. Like I just I'd say like there are elements of that in my life. And I don't know, I just think I've grown out of it. I think it's hard for me to like even come up with examples because I feel so far from that version of myself that would feel like anxiety or guilt about telling someone no or holding my boundary. Like I just don't feel that way anymore. Um but I can see that. Like I can see that. Like I mean, there are certain things as like manners, like taking the last piece of cake. Like, okay, there are manners. But if someone says, "Oh my god, absolutely eat the last piece of cake. Eat it, girl. It's fine." And then you still don't eat it because you're just like, "Oh, what if they really mean yes, but they really mean no? What if they said yes, but they really mean no?" And oh my god, is this rude? Is it you're like, uh you got a problem. Okay, number 5, you're often tired for no apparent reason. That makes complete sense because if you're just like a people pleaser, a people pleasing must be exhausting. I cannot imagine. Like if you're giving away so much energy all the time, you have none left for you. So, like, you have to be exhausted all the time. Like, everything has to be overwhelming. Everything has to create anxiety because you just have no protection for your own energy. Like, my number one thing for that is, like, practice aura, like, practice visualizing your own aura around yourself, like a ball of light, like, protecting your energy. Like, that would be, like, my first bit of advice for that. Like, if you just feel exhausted all the time, it's because you're giving away your boundaries are so porous, your aura is so porous, like, everything's coming in and nothing's going out. Like, that is so exhausting to me. It, like, makes me seriously physically tired just saying it out loud. I'm just like, oh. Like, having just soaking in everybody's energy all the time and being hyper aware and hyper, like, concerned about everything all the time, and, "Oh my god, did I make them upset?" Like, "Oh my god, maybe something I said was her energy off today? Like, maybe her energy weird towards me today?" Like, that's very much what happens. That is not a fun place to be in, and it's exhausting. Number 6, your radar is off when it comes to sharing. This one I was like, "Okay," like, I could see, like, I don't know, it's still a little confusing to me. Maybe it'll make sense for you guys. I'll read it. It says you tend to overshare private details of your life with people you just met, leaving you open to hurt and manipulation. But then when someone wants to be close with you, you panic. You don't know how to share your needs and wants and might suffer intimacy issues. So I don't know. I don't really resonate with that one, but I do share a lot, but I do feel like it's appropriate. Like, I do have a podcast that's called, for sharing. But, like, I don't sit down next to someone and then, like, say, "Oh, yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 13 and, like, I got into therapy." Like, I don't you know what I mean? Like, I don't go all in. Uh, because I do feel like I have that sense of, like, you are opening yourself up. It's kind of like that aura thing. It's like you're opening your boundaries, like, energetically, you're opening yourself up to somebody you have no idea. Like, and I don't do that. I don't it takes me a minute. Like, I have to vibe check with someone, and that happens, like, kind of instantaneously. Like, if I run into someone and I'm immediately sensing vibes. Like, that's just the intuitive in me. Like, I can immediately sense if something's off, if someone doesn't like me, if someone's not down with my energy, like, immediately within 30 seconds, I can sense that. But I still don't like, I'm not a big sharer in that way unless I know you or whatever. So, I don't know. And then, like, the thing about when someone wants to be close with you, you panic? Like, I don't know. I don't know, I kinda crave people to be open with me that, like, I want to be open with, like, I crave that connection, like, I think that's part of, like, my makeup, like, as a projector. Like, I crave connection, like, I crave, like, a deeper level of connection with someone, like, otherwise it feels very, like, surfacey and, like, boring to me, and I'm not into it. So, I don't know. I don't know how that really I guess it relates to boundaries and the fact that, like, oversharing, you can give away all your energy. I would just leave it at that. I don't know. Number 7. You're constantly the victim of situations. This can mean you tend to feel hard done by. I think somebody in Europe must have wrote this because, like, that's such a weird thing for me to say. This can mean you feel hard done by because others will take advantage of you in both obvious and subtle ways. Perhaps you feel overlooked or blamed at work, in your family, and in social circles. You might even be the sort of person that things always seem to go wrong for. I definitely had this for a lot of years, like a lot of years. Um, like just what I said before, like, do I, like back in the day, I was like, do I have like a sign on my forehead that says, if you're toxic, come date me? Like, that's very victim-y mentality. Like, I didn't understand, like, I needed to look in the mirror, and I needed to realize that, like, you're allowing these people in your life. You are allowing these people in your life, and, like, that's what therapy did for me at 25, because that's exactly what he said to me. And I know I shared that story previously, so I won't get into it, but, like, that's what he shared. He just said point blank, "I don't give a shit about that guy. I don't give a shit about if you think he's narcissistic, and, like, I don't care. What I care about is, like, why you're allowing these people in your life." And, like, that still took me years to, like, fully grasp that concept. It took me years. So, I definitely have moved out of the victim mentality. Victim mentality, like, it was, like, pretty ingrained, like, I have to say. So it took me, like, a good few years to, like, really understand it and then really be aware of it when I was, like, starting to move into that. Like, it's still a work in progress. Like, it's not the easiest thing to, like, see that part of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not. So, I think I do. Like, I have friends in my life that will, like, really hold me accountable and, like, really tell me, like, "Well, Caroline, like, you can but that's you. Like, you know what I mean?" Like, I do have friends that will, like, call me out on that, like, which I'm really grateful for, and I really appreciate it because sometimes it's hard for me to see. But I think overall in general, like, I mean, I used to just go down that road so bad, like, everything was happening at me, like, not for me, like, that kinda energy, just, like, everything was like, I had no control over anything, like, everything was just, like, poor, pitiful me, like, just, like, the most annoying, like, ugh, makes me wanna vomit just thinking about that version of myself, just, ugh. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that that's a lack of boundaries, and I think it's kind of a way for you to kind of, like, try and protect yourself from having a lack of boundaries, is going into victim mode, so number 8, you are a tiny bit annoyed most all the time. I cannot even tell you guys when I read that the first time, I was like, "Oh my god." I used to feel like that all the time, you guys, like, and I never thought I would feel any different. I truly thought I was gonna be, like, the most annoyed, irritated person on the planet for the rest of my life. I just thought that that was, like, who I was. I was always constantly irritated by everyone and everything, and, like, I don't feel like that now. Like, I really don't. Like, I haven't felt that way in a long time. Like, I feel that way before my right before my period. That's it. But I used to feel like that all the time, you guys, and that's because I had a lack of boundaries. Lack of freaking boundaries. So it completely makes sense. Number 9, you secretly feel that others don't show you respect. So it says, if you don't set boundaries, people won't know how to act around you and you will be left feeling disrespected. The other side of the coin is that without your own boundaries, you are less likely to recognize those in others and might unwittingly be disrespecting them, which this is a big one. And respect and disrespect for me, like equal sides, are so important to me in my life. Like, I do not like being disrespected, and I highly regard, like, respect, like, showing respect, getting respect, like, I don't like to be disrespected, I don't like to give out disrespect, like, that's very important to me, and I have to say that this was true for me, like, I really did like, I just held that in such high regard. Like, if people did not respect me, like, I had a big problem with it. But then I ended up in all these relationships where, like, men didn't respect me. So it was like this vicious circle I was in, and I couldn't fucking find my way out until I started to go to therapy and, like, started to, like, peel away the layers of all the bullshit. And I realized, in reading that sentence, it's very true. Like, if you don't have your own boundaries, how are you gonna see that in someone else? Like, how? You're not gonna be aware of it. If you don't have your own boundaries, you're not gonna be aware of other people's boundaries in their life. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna start taking stuff as a personal attack. You're gonna bump into somebody else's boundary and they're gonna say, "Don't do that." And you're gonna take it personal. And that happened to me so many times. Like, I would take things so personally all the time, right? Because I didn't have boundaries. So I didn't respect other people's boundaries. And I have to say, like, the example that comes to mind where, like, I started to really put in place boundaries because I have 2 examples. So when I was in Europe and I was dating my ex, we had a like verbal argument, which you do, and I got like really heated and I was yelling. And my ex was like just like mid sentence, like right in the middle of me yelling. I don't even know what we're fighting about, something silly, I'm sure. And I said, he said to me, "Don't yell at me." And like like small as that seems, like I've never had anyone say that to me. So I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm wrong. I should not yell at you. You're absolutely right. Like, I'm sorry. I'm like genuinely sorry. Like, do you need a minute? Like, do you want to continue the conversation? Like, and then we move forward." And like, I never did that again because I know that that's a boundary for him. And previously in my life, if an ex would have told me that, I would have taken it, like, personally and been like, "I'm not yelling. Like, I'm not yelling," and, like, don't like, just because I'm a passionate person, like, I would have made all these excuses, you know what I mean? Like, I would have gone around and around. Like, I would have been a little bit more manipulative about it. And so for me to have that experience right then and there and to like see it in myself and to take accountability and to understand that that was uncomfortable for him and to apologize, like that was a huge moment for me and like my own growth. And reading that sentence the other day on this paper, I was like, damn, that is so true. Because at that point in my life, I started to have boundaries. Like interrelational boundaries, like emotional boundaries. Like I really started to like understand how people were making me feel like in my life. And like I was understanding that like I had to start putting boundaries with certain people and I had to start like spacing myself away and moving away from certain people because I didn't like the way I was being treated and spoken to and like all these things. So I recognized that in my ex. And what another example of something that, this is like a work in progress. And this is what I'm talking about. I was like, I'm not perfect and I don't claim to be perfect. The conflict with my family when I got back from Europe. There was a phone conversation. I was questioning certain things. The person on the phone did not like the fact that I was questioning, obviously took it personal because they started yelling at me. And just like my ex did to me, I asked, I said, please do not speak to me that way. What happened? The person on the other end of the phone got louder and louder, repeated it, got louder and louder. So disrespectful. So I was like, very calmly, I'll see you in an hour. I will be there to collect my dog. Click. Yeah, and there are layers to that relationship. Like, let's not be, super simplistic. But I think as far as an example, it was like my boundary was not respected in the slightest. And what happened was I it was relayed to me, do not come up here, do not come up here. Did I respect that boundary? No, I didn't. I took my ass right on up the road. And so did I disrespect their boundary? Yes, I did. You see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not this like there's always room for growth. And for me, I can take full accountability that I did not make the best decision that day. And there's a lot of other layers, you know what I mean? Like I said, you can't keep it like super simple, but that's an example of I don't know that that other person has the best boundaries because they clearly didn't respect mine and they took it as like a personal attack. Like when I said, please don't speak to me that way. And then they kind of want to mock me and say it louder and repeat the sentence that they said like over and over and over at a louder octave. You know what I mean? Like that's insulting and that's disrespectful. And so that's a lot of why I don't choose to move forward in that relationship. So that's also just holding my boundary. But at the same time, I know I cross their boundaries. You see what I'm saying? So it can get tricky, you guys. It can get tricky. But I just feel like the key is to take accountability, to be self aware, to take accountability. Like, I got it. You know what I mean? Like, I know. And I can say it on a podcast to the public. Like, I got it. Like, I was not perfect in that situation either. Like, totally get it. But it doesn't change the fact that I got my boundaries and I'm good on them. That's what's not changing. Number 10, you might just be passive aggressive. Oh, I hate a passive. Oh my, I can't stand somebody who is passive aggressive, y'all. That is one thing I'm not. And I think that's also in my genetic makeup. I'm a Sagittarius and I'm an Aries rising. You're not going to get more blunt than me, sweetie. No, you're not. Ooh, I hate somebody who is passive aggressive and hates a strong word. And I kind of mean it. Like, I just cannot. Like, say it with your chest. This is another part about boundaries. How the freak am I supposed to read your mind if you're passive aggressive? You want to try and hold a boundary with me? Well, fucking say it and mean it. Be honest, clear, direct, kind, compassionate. And I got it. I got the boundary. You know what I mean? But like the passive aggressive, like let's encode a secret message inside of a secret message and let's be kind of offensive, but not really. Let's gaslight somebody. Let's try and manipulate them so we can gain some kind of control over a situation. That's passive aggressiveness. You will not catch me respecting anybody's passive aggressiveness, anybody's boundaries that try to come at me passive aggressively. I cannot stand it. Say what it is you need to say. Oh, I can't. Let me read what this article says. It says, first, you let others take advantage. Then you try to manipulate back the energy and power you lost by nagging the other person or complaining or even pushing them in little ways. Oh, I can't stand it. In other words, a bad case of passive aggression. And it says, you might also blame others all the time, which is a way of not facing up to the fact that you didn't set a boundary and that you are the one who is responsible for your life. Amen. Thank you. I cannot stand that. Oh, passive aggressiveness, you guys, like, talk about a trigger. Mm, I can't stand it. And you know what I really don't like? It makes me wanna, like I have to fight the urge to, like, punch somebody in the face. You guys, I'm not even kidding you. This is, like, the biggest trigger of my life. When someone's passive aggressive and then they have a like, little snake tone to it too. Oh my. Oh, Lord Jesus. It takes everything in my power not to choke somebody out. I gotta call in Sparkle Spirit, y'all. I gotta call Sparkle Spirit. 'Cause I will be ready to choke somebody. Like, do not be passive aggressive with me. I respect somebody so much more if they are just honest and direct. Like, I cannot stand the runaround. I can't. Y'all got my voice cracking. I can't. Truly, I will be ready to fight. Oh, and I have a specific example, but I can't because it has to do with my family and I just can't go there anymore today, but I can't stand it. Oh, you guys. So now y'all know, don't be passive aggressive around me, okay? And get boundaries so you won't be passive aggressive and gross. I hate that kind of energy. Just get your boundaries correct and like understand who you are, learn them crystal clear and grow some balls and say them crystal clear. You know what I mean? Like say I don't even care. If someone who is normally passive aggressive and then all of a sudden they find their voice and they want to hold a boundary with me and they want to be a bitch and say it like that, well, I respect that more. I would respect that more. You don't even have to come kindness and compassion with me. If that's your nature to be passive aggressive and you're growing and you're changing and you want to come at me with your boundaries like just in my face, cool. I respect that more than passive aggressiveness. Okay? I can't. Number 11, we're almost done you guys. Number 11, you often wonder who you really are. Oh, this makes me sad because I felt like this for a lot of my life. I'm like, what is life? There has to be more. Like, I have got to be here for a bigger purpose. Like, I cannot just be clocking in, clocking out. That I can't do this life. This life is not meant for me. I'm meant for more. There has to be something else. Like, I just can't. I really can't. It says, it's likely you are unclear on your purpose in life or perhaps struggle to set goals. You might even have an identity crisis. That is so, I mean, because if you don't have boundaries, like again, like what I said, you're very porous. You're very open to everybody else's energy about what you should be doing, where you should be, what your career should look like, what's your purpose in life. Like, and I can tell you, I've never felt better than I do now. And that's because I don't listen to anybody else. The intuitive life coaching piece was like a like whisker to so many people in my life. And guess what? They gave me their unsolicited opinions. And sometimes they weren't appreciated. But did I let that stop me? In the past, I would have. Yeah, in the past, I wasn't even open to the side of myself, even though it was innately there. I've been born with this. I just didn't pop out of the sky somewhere. Like, this is the person that I am, truly, deep down in my soul. I am an intuitive being. I'm highly sensitive. I'm empathic. I'm now using my tools and like what God's given me for like a greater purpose. And I've never been able to do that before, not in this manner, right? And I feel the best that I've ever felt. And if I was still listening to my family and to my friends and to people in my society and people in my community, I would never be who I am. And I would still be depressed and miserable and like traveling the world constantly trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and like there's got to be more to this shit than just clocking into your job every day. Like I felt very lost. And then when I realized that I did all this shadow work, you guys, I went through that journey with myself. Those boundaries just innately like they just came out. And I was very protective over myself. I was very protective of what I was opening myself up to and like growing into myself, very protective over it. I have to say, I think my boundaries have changed around it. I think they've become a little bit more flexible. But like for a long time, when I first started this journey of being an intuitive life coach, brick wall boundary. If someone had one thing to say to me, which they did, which did not match my values, my morals, I was like, don't fucking talk to me. Like it was met with some anger, right? And I'm not super proud of like the reactions that I had to certain people, but that's what it was. Like you were gonna bump into that boundary for me that I set that like now I'm protecting who I am, right? I now fully feel comfortable in who I am, and I'm going to open this door up to the public and let everyone know that, sure, I'm a weirdo, I'm a psychic, I'm intuitive, I have these gifts. Like, now everyone knows. It's just like, who fucking cares? And I'm going to protect that with everything in my being. And if you have something to say, if you have your opinions, guess what? At this point in my life, I don't give a fuck. Truly. So that was a brick wall boundary. Would I suggest that all the time? No. And like I said, I've become a lot more flexible with it. But at that point in my life, like I had to do it to just like protect myself because I knew it was going to happen. And I knew that like I needed to put boundaries in order to keep going in the path that I wanted to go and to keep pursuing my purpose in life. Right. So I think that that's really, that's that journey of like figuring out why you're here, what your journey is in life, like what your purpose is, and sometimes you have to protect yourself in that, and like boundaries are the way to do it. So number 12, this is the last one. Your secret fear is being rejected or abandoned. Lacking healthy boundaries goes back to childhood. It often means you didn't have a caregiver who provided unconditional love and acceptance. You had to do what others wanted to avoid being rejected or abandoned. And now, as an adult, are the two things that you fear most. And I definitely had a level of that, like especially as far as family relationships. And I'm not going to share too much about that because it's not really fair. It's not you know, my specific journey to share, but what I witnessed, as like a teenager and a younger kid. I had two older brothers, and my oldest brother really had a rough time, specifically with my dad. And like growing up, it was rough because he didn't I think my dad had like an idea of like what he wanted his son to be like and whatever. It's his firstborn, it's the oldest. And like it was rough. And like the things that I witnessed were hard on me to see and like hard on me to experience. And like I think it was just chalked up to like normal father son kind of energy, but it's not. And, I had to work through that in therapy. And like those are the things that I saw as like, oh, I guess this is like how normal relationships are. And they're not. Right. And I had to learn that as an adult that like, what went on in those years was like not appropriate. But what I internalized and what I subconsciously took with me was like, on some level, you need to fall in line because if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And like that's sad to say, but like it is true. And I do think my dad learned a lot throughout the years with that specifically. And I think he understood too that like the way you are is going to push your children away. So like you really do have to allow them like the space to like be who they're going to be, and like not who you want them to be. Um so I think that was a journey for my dad as well, and I do think he made, like, strides in that, but, like, the damage I shouldn't say the damage, but, like, the subconscious programming was already there for me that, like, for a lot of my life, getting my dad's approval for things was very important to me, and it wasn't until I did the life coaching where I started to be like, "I really don't care." If you need to make it make sense in your mind that it's related to psychology or, like, whatever you wanna make it make sense in your mind, great, cool, make it make sense in your mind. Like, I don't care. If you want to support me, thank you. I appreciate it. If not, like, keep it to yourself and, like, that's a part of the relationship that I don't know what to do with, but, like, for right now, it's gotta be put to the side. You know what I mean? So, like, I definitely grew out of that in my 30s, but, like, for a lot of years, I was, like, subconsciously kind of fell in line. So and that is a fear of being rejected. That is definitely a fear of being rejected. So, that was kind of interesting and reading that and like having those because I always try and just you guys when I do these episodes and like I'm reading something from something that's already written and not my words and not my thoughts, but like I always try and like go with like the first example that comes to mind because I think that's very intuitive. Like when I read that sentence, like that's exactly what came to mind. Like those are the experiences that I had in my life that kind of molded me, and I think that that in turn created that lack of boundaries because I had a big fear about around being rejected. It's not that I was or that, I actually experienced that as like an adult or anything like that. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I saw it. And I think subconsciously that just became a part of me because I witnessed it and I was like, "Ooh, okay, I see what it's like for someone to go against the mold and against my dad, and like I don't know if I really want to go there. So but I mean at the same time, like I was definitely me my whole life, and like there were certain points in my life where it was like middle finger to, but like I don't care, like I do think like my personality, I also just have that side of myself, but I had a lot of respect for my dad, so I really did care about like his opinions, and it did bleed into like a little bit of like fear of rejected energy. So, yeah, I just thought that was kind of fascinating. And I just share these to shed light on it because when I didn't have very strong boundaries in life and I wasn't even aware, like something like listening to a podcast episode about boundaries would have gone like over my head. So I feel like starting with like what your life could look like if you have a lack of boundaries and like going through all these things is really helpful because sometimes when you're in it and you're in the day to day and like you're just living your life, it's hard to know like oh shit, these things are actually a problem. Like, oh, I didn't even realize like that would be a sign of like a lack of boundaries, right? So just awareness is key, like in everything. So I just thought we would start there. And then I'm not going to give too much on like how to set boundaries and the whole nine because like you guys can get that information like literally everywhere these days. Boundaries are a little bit of a buzzword. Everybody's got their boundaries, which is great. I really do think it's great. But I just wanted to make some points because there are some things that I've experienced and I know I've shared a lot, but there are some things that I've experienced personally and I've learned from, and so, um, I do wanna share some tips on how to start boundaries. So number 1 is get to know yourself, and I wrote, like, get to know your shadow side. I think that's the really, 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 really most important piece. So your shadow self is, like, the part of you that you're really ashamed of, the part of you that you don't want people to know about, the things that you keep hidden, the things that, like, when they come out, you're just like, you wish they didn't, and you wish you could take it all back and, like, you feel ashamed of yourself, right? And doing shadow work really helps you accept that part of yourself and accept that we're all human, we're all created with light and dark. That's everything in this universe has light and dark. Like, it's important to be gentle with yourself and accept that side of yourself. And I think it's really important in boundaries because if you can't accept the most deep, dark, most shameful parts of yourself, then you're not going to be able to do that for other people, right? And you're also not going to be able to understand where the boundaries start and where they begin. Or sorry, where they start and where they end. If you don't know the light and dark of yourself, how are you going to make boundaries? Like how cuz you don't know where you start and where you end. You only know your butterfly sunshine self. And then when something bad happens, you just go into a ball of shame and guilt and hate yourself for it. And like, that's not healthy, right? So for me, the shadow side is like one of the most important things in learning how to set boundaries. Number 2, pay attention to how things make you feel. So we're also, in this Western world, it's so much emphasis put on the brain, so much emphasis put on psychology, so much emphasis put on mental health, which are all great things. And everything is so interconnected and it's all about balance in this universe. But as far as boundaries, like for me, what was the most helpful was like getting to know myself on this super deep level. Number 1, like shadow work. And number 2 was getting out of my brain. And I say this all the time. And like, this is what I teach. Like, this is my message. Like, this is why I am an intuitive guide is that what helped me the most in this life was like balancing out the two, like the brain and the heart center. Like, and when I say heart center, it's like, get into your body. How do things make you feel? When you are around a specific person, how do you feel? Does that person give you the fucking ick? Well, noted. Am I saying you need to get that person out of your life and never speak to them again? No, I'm not. I'm saying you need to collect the data, and then you need to make boundaries for yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Okay. But like, you have to learn you have to learn to trust your body. You have to learn to trust if something makes your stomach turn, something makes you kind of like, put your nose up, you feel uncomfortable. Maybe you even feel like you want to cry, or like you just don't want to be around this person's energy anymore. Well, it's data, right? So collect the data is point number two. Collect the data. Tap into how you feel and collect the data. Okay. Number three, start small. Start where you feel comfortable. If you want to start your boundaries, maybe more at work, like maybe you feel really taken advantage of at work, or maybe someone didn't approve your PTO and you want to start there and say, no, I am taking my PTO. You know what I mean? Like if you want to start there, that's more comfortable than like maybe interpersonal boundaries, or there's all kinds of boundaries, you guys. There's sexual boundaries, there's intellectual boundaries, a lot of boundaries, physical boundaries. Like start where you feel the most comfortable. That would be start small. I'm trying to think of a like an example that I had, but like I that's just not me. Like if I'm going in, I'm going all in. If I'm having a fucking boundary, everybody's gonna know, okay? Number four, be okay with dynamic changes. This was something that I really had to learn because I was like, you know what? Damn. Like I really had an abrupt situation happen, and I had to be okay with those dynamic changes, and I am okay with those dynamic changes because I know that I stayed true to myself, and I know that I respected myself, and I know that I did the best that I could, and I'm an imperfect human being, and I still do have a lot of kindness and compassion, and I still do love my family members, but like also friendships. I don't even know why I keep talking about my family. There's been so many friendships that I've just closed the door on. And I am totally fine with that, you guys. Like, it's not like, sure, it's like a bummer, right? But it's me or you. And I'm always going to choose me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like my energy, or I'm just going to let you take over my whole aura and my whole light and my whole spirit and my whole, like, no, I'm not. I'm always going to choose sparkle. Okay. I'm always going to choose sparkle over that friendship or over that family or whatever. Like, it just is the case because I got to live with myself. And if I'm allowing you to take everything from me, then I can't live with myself. Then you're going to go into all these things that I talked about. Right. So, it is okay to be selfish in that way. It is okay. It is okay. Okay. Don't listen to your boomer parents that say it's not okay. It is okay. Number five, remember kindness and compassion. Oh my God. Let me say this again. Remember kindness and compassion because I need it for myself. You guys, I'm like drooling over here. Kindness and compassion that's a huge one for me. Okay. Because we can have our boundaries, we can say them directly, we can say them with kindness and compassion. The only thing I would say maybe not is like physical boundaries. We don't always have to be super kind and compassion. Someone touches you, you don't want to touch that, you've told them, don't touch me. Like sometimes you got to say it like you mean it. You know what I mean? But a lot of the other boundaries, like I really, and even then, I mean, listen, you could still be kind. There are some, well, I don't know. Cause some people are just fucking hard headed, you guys. And like sometimes you just gotta like literally tell them like it is. But I think with the intention of kindness and compassion is really important. Whether or not that actually happens, like to be determined, but with the intention of kindness and compassion is really important. Because if you're setting boundaries for any other reason besides like protecting yourself, like if you're setting a boundary to try and manipulate someone or be like petty and whatever, like it's always going to backfire on you. So just don't go there with that. But if you're setting boundaries with the intentions of like protecting yourself and doing it for your energy, for yourself, for your spirit, for your soul, then it's always going to come out in kindness and compassion. That's my personal opinion. Like I said, there are caveats. Like if someone's going to try and sexually assault you, by all means, you have my full permission to literally kick them in the face. You know what I mean? Like you can bypass words and just kick them in the face. So Number 6, it's okay to be flexible and it's okay to change your boundaries. Like I said earlier, I'm in that process, like, I had very strict boundaries, like, and I think when you first start on this journey of, like, really understanding and being conscious of your boundaries, that's, like, our first I feel like that's our first, like, place we go is, like, brick wall boundaries because like, it's more comfortable, I think, and it's less murky, if that makes any sense. And so now that I've gotten like really comfortable with myself and I'm comfortable with setting boundaries and I know I can do it with kindness and compassion and I know I can problem solve and I know when conflicts arise, like I'm okay. Like I can kind of like I can let it be a little bit more porous because I know I can handle myself. I've taken my power back, right? What by setting boundaries, I have let my power come back into my soul, like into my being. So I know that anything that's out there that's going to test me potentially, like I'm good. But before that, like I really had to set those like concrete wall boundaries. And that's okay. And it's also okay to change them. And in that same token, I think it's really important to be clear, honest, direct with your boundaries. Um, because people can't read your mind. Do I think you need to run around shouting that you have boundaries? No. But if someone bumps into your boundary or something that makes you uncomfortable or whatever, you need to just be direct and you need to tell them, I didn't like that. Please don't speak to me like that. Don't yell at me. You know what I mean? Like just be direct and to the point. Doesn't and if they take it as a personal attack, you guys, that's data. Again, that's data for you. If someone is taking your boundaries and claiming them as a personal attack and like turning around on you and saying, well, you shouldn't have done this and da da da. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know what I'm saying because we all know those people that do that. It's data. Am I saying you need to cut those people out of your life? No. Would that be my preferred option? Yeah, but that's not for everybody. But it is. It's just data. Like, you collect the data. You're like, oh, okay, that was an interesting response to my boundary. Okay, noted. Noted. Okay. So that's really it, you guys. That's all I have to say about boundaries. I hope this was helpful. I know I just kind of get all over the place in some of these episodes and I give so many personal examples and sometimes I can get in the weeds with stuff, but boundaries have really been a journey for me and like I at this point in my life I do feel fairly comfortable with them and I feel more confident in setting boundaries and understanding myself on a much deeper level. So I think that it comes with time and it comes with understanding yourself, like seriously point blank. Like I think if you're not doing the work on yourself and you're not trying to understand who you are on a deeper level, then you're going to have a harder time. Um, but boundaries are crucial, you guys. Like I just can't say it enough. Like boundaries give us freedom. Although they can be like, what we envision as like a fence or like literal like a physical boundary. But you know how much like, if like you're a like I don't know. I feel like boundaries give us like a sense of calm and a sense of peace and a sense of like protection. Like it doesn't have to be like a fenced in, like a restrictive thing. Like it's not at all. It's like it's like a horse or like farm animals. It's like it keeps them safe. Like potentially it keeps out like bad things that want to come in and hurt the farm animals or keeps the farm animals from running out into the road and getting hit by a car. Like it just, you see what I'm saying? Like, is that a metaphor? Like, I don't know. But boundaries protect us. And number one, they protect your energy, they protect your soul, they protect your spirit. And you guys, I'm not even kidding you. That's the most important thing. Protecting your spirit, don't even get me started. Okay. Like protect your spirit at all costs. Cause that is just, it's the power source. It's everything. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I think that's all I have to say. I'm looking at my notes. Um, Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I just wrote like your boundaries aren't about other people, they're about you. So it's not about like don't focus on other people, you focus on you. You focus on what made you feel uncomfortable, you focus on whatever the feeling is that came up with you in a certain situation and you focus on that. You don't focus on the other person and like trying to dissect them and why they're behaving the way that none of that. None of that, none of that, none of that. You focus on yourself. I feel uncomfortable because someone said X, Y, and Z. Well, why does that make me feel uncomfortable? And you go from there. You see what I'm saying? You guys get it? Like you don't focus on like don't start dissecting other people's energy and like don't dissect their, don't psychoanalyze them. Like, just don't go there. Focus on number one. Focus on you. That's it. Period. Okay. Now I'm really done. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow this podcast. Please, please, please leave a review and click 5 stars because it goes a lot in this like internet tech world. It means so much, and boost my podcast so that it can reach other people. So thank you guys so much. Oh, and also I am going to be starting an Instagram for the podcast specifically, not my private Instagram. So I made that choice to um add in an Instagram for like a separate Instagram. So I'll let you guys know when that's available, and I'll make it crystal clear for everyone. And yeah, as always, you guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll chat soon. Bye, guys.